I just bought this wrecked Nissan GTR, which we think has been a victim to insurance fraud. But despite that, I think I can rebuild and fix this car within 24 hours. And this time, I mean 24 hours. I'm not going to be leaving my workshop for a full 24 hours. 9 hours left. In an attempt to rebuild a car I've never worked on before. I can see oil. I'm not going to cross this line unless I need to test drive the car. Oh no! But why? When I saw this car at the salvage auction, it looked like there was minimum damage. An easy repair. But there's one serious and expensive fault which I think is the reason this GTR ended up at the salvage yard. A transmission fault.
Transmission.
Transmissions. Transmission.
The transmission.
In the early Nissan GTRs, the transmissions are prone to failure.
Yep, Nissan Gtr, a piece of junk.
And with Nissan refusing to sell any parts of the transmission separately, you're almost forced to buy a brand new one, which could cost thousands. But what are the chances that it has a bad transmission on the day that it crashes? Seems unlikely, and that's the risk I was willing to take. One more. That's it. It's 2013. Now at this point, the bids have already exceeded what I thought it was going to go to. So if this car needs a transmission, it would be a huge loss. But I was still going to go for it.
13 quick. 2013.
And just when I thought I was outbidded and I was on my max bid, my cameraman decided to bid £750 more.
So 750 more is not a problem.
And it looks like that did it. I now owned a Nissan GTR, known for being the supercar killer. One of the most tunable cars I know of, which brings such great value for money. And here's mine.
Oh my god. What's happened there then? Oh my god, I got a GTR.
This is one of them cars that I've always loved, but never actually committed to buying one.
Does it start up?
Yeah.
Oh there, it's in the middle.
There's something wrong with the brakes.
Yeah, they're very spongy.
Yeah, there's no brakes. Oh, I think they must have jumped it. Look at that, Japanese lightweight.
First impressions, it seems all good, but the battery is flat and there's a problem with the brakes. So now we're going to attach the battery pack to the battery to see if we can get this thing started up.
Yeah, there we go. Let's start it up. Apparently a transmission fault, but have we got a bargain? Let's hear it roar. We want to hear Godzilla roar. It's really smelly in here.
Quite smooth.
Well smooth.
The engine runs, which is a good start. But how about the gearbox?
It's a bit worrying, isn't it? What's going on down there? Is that diff?
I don't know if that's normal. Like the brake pedal, look. I'm all the way to the floor. There's something wrong with the brakes.
The brake issue is strange, but so far the gearbox seems okay and it actually selected gears.
Goes into reverse.
The throttle response.
Neutral. First gear. Manual.
So what's wrong with the gearbox?
I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
And we did find out. At this moment I wasn't ready to work on the car, so we left it on the trailer and the next day come back to it, where all of the issues began to start.
I think plan is, let's get it off the trailer and we need to test. If this gearbox is fine, then we've got a bargain. Okay. I still don't know why there's no brakes. There's literally, it goes like all the way to the floor.
And then it was the start of the transmission fault.
So we've got transmission fault, flashing on the dash, engine management light, no traction control, but again, all of this could just be because of the low battery.
Oh.
Despite the transmission fault and the rest of the faults on the dash, the GTR still managed to select a gear and roll off by itself, which is good news.
Have you seen this? Have you seen this? What's really cool? You'll like this.
What?
How good's that?
The dash moves with the steering
The
wheel.
dash, so you can move the steering wheel down, and it doesn't obstruct your view of the dash. So you can move it down. I can still see the dash. Move it up. Why is that not a thing in all cars? That's really
crazy.
cool.
I think we've got a really good GTR here, and it's quite rare to see an unmodified one. It's just that transmission fault which is worrying me. But maybe if I took this car for a drive, it may clear all the faults. That was my next step.
Right, check this out. Auto will not go into manual. Stays in auto. Right, let's see if we'll clear any faults whilst if we take.
Oh. It's like the C63. Oh yeah. No.
Oh, yeah, this is not good. Or ready? Foot flat to the floor. Could that be solenoid? Oh my I think there's an issue, which means it might not be as much of a bargain as we thought.
These GTR gearboxes kind of work like a manual gearbox, but instead of using a gear lever in the car to select the gear, you press the paddle behind the steering wheel, and it then uses these oil pressured solenoids which slide in and out to select the gear. But if one of these solenoids becomes jammed, or there's a problem with the electrics, then of course you're going to get faults.
There's demonstration, so it's in auto, from standstill, foot flat to the floor. You would expect it to get off because GTR drag race videos, I've seen loads of them on the interwebs. Ready? 3, 2, 1. That was an improvement.
But it definitely wasn't right. It seems we have a problem.
Now I'm swaying towards this as an insurance job.
100%. Definitely. How is it that the gearbox goes at the same time that you get crashed into?
Yeah, I
That
know,
does not happen.
that's what doesn't make sense. Yeah, why?
Oh, my gearbox went and then conveniently
And then someone
hit
crashed,
my
yeah.
door. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry,
what?
man.
Oh, what a convenience. Now I've got a payout from the insurance.
That just never, that wouldn't happen.
Yeah, it just, like, it would be so convenient for that to happen, wouldn't it? Like, if the gearbox went and then you rang Nissan and you said, hey mate, my gearbox gone, how much? They would go, oh, 30 grand for a gearbox plus labour. I'd be like, oh no. And then the next day someone crashes into it and you go, oh no, someone's crashed into my GTR, I'm going to have to get my payout for the car.
Can't believe
It'd be so unfortunate.
Oh, yeah.
I do like GTRs, but
What, you actually like it?
yeah, I wasn't saying I like this one. I like GTRs, but this is the older shape, isn't it?
It's not even that much difference.
I notice it.
One theory, look, about only thing non-modified. This is a 7 Valley Motorsport keyring on the GTR, which is a company which modifies GTRs.
Maybe you're in the wrong profession and you should be a detective.
So we've got multiple problems here. A gearbox fault, a fault with a battery, an ABS fault, a rear quarter fault, a door fault, and a fault with the brakes as well. I bought this car to rebuild it within 24 hours thinking we might get away with not having the gearbox fault. But we're still gonna try it within 24 hours and I'm not gonna leave the unit. And until this car enters that unit, the clock starts.
Matt has definitely got a fault with his head.
This is it, 24 hours inside my unit to fix a GTR. Now because it does have that gearbox fault, we thought it's not the best idea to carry on driving it. So to get it into neutral, I can pop this plastic piece out, insert the key, and now I can slide the gear stick into neutral so we can push it inside the unit. Now before I received the car, I ordered all the parts that I thought I would need, and I'm hoping that there'll be enough because the challenge is about to start. This is it then, from this moment onwards, 24 hours, I will not be leaving this unit. Matt, the cameraman, and my dad are going to be leaving me at regular time. I'll be staying here, and I'm hoping I can fix this in those 24 hours. Now I'm slightly worried about the gearbox, but let's start these 24 hours. And it starts. Let's do it.
What are we starting with, Tony?
The battery, apparently.
The faults we're getting on the dashboard are all electronical faults. And electronical faults start with the battery. If we can get a good battery on it, then let's read the fault codes. And if it's a case of clearing the fault codes and the gearbox is good, we're on to a really good start. and I could spend the rest of the 23 hours, 59 minutes doing a door and a rear quarter, and then figuring out these brakes. We've seen it plenty of times before, a low battery causing many electrical faults. What size you gave me? 10. You gave me a 10 as well, ain't?
Yeah, they are 10.
Oh, are they? I thought Chinese things are like odd.
Well, this is Japanese, so...
So I think it seems right to start with the battery, because there still could be a chance that this car didn't have a transmission fault before it went to auction, and letting the battery go flat could have caused the fault.
6 minutes so far.
Battery out. New one is going in. The new battery cost me £60, and we just got to refit it, but this time connecting the positive up first, then the negative. My dad will explain why.
The current anodes go from negative to positive. They don't go positive to negative.
They don't go clockwise, they go anti-clockwise.
It's not a clock.
Last few things to bolt up on the battery, then we're going to see if it changed anything. Right, I think if this is a really, really good deal and a really good gamble, there's no transmission fault anymore. Right, time to get out the code reader. There we go. Now we'll plug in the OBD reader, which will hopefully tell us what the hell is going on with this car. First step is to plug it into the OBD port, then we can read the codes. Imagine this does it.
This will be a bargain if that's the case.
Yeah. Engine pass. It should be a fail for ABS. Yes.
Okay, that's positive.
We do have a fault for ABS. We waited for the car to read all of the codes. Then we can get an idea of what's going wrong. Okay. So, transmission. Solenoid. As I thought, one of the faults is for a solenoid in the gearbox, along with another fault as well. Control module performance.
And that could be because the battery's low.
Because the battery is low.
Oh my. If this works, I swear. If that 60 quid battery fixes that gearbox, that's going to be crazy. But why would you have a past fault? Module 6.
If it's low, if your battery's low, it will bring up a load of fault codes which are just going to be past faults because now we've got a new battery on it. This error is about low battery, dead battery, bad ground, or a problem. It's going to be a battery. We're hoping this fault was just caused by a low battery. So what I'm going to do now is clear that fault codes and see if any of them come back when we rescan it. Codes have been successfully erased. Good news, okay. It seems to have done it. There's a bunch more codes on the car which I'm just going to clear off, and then later we'll see what comes back. I've got no faults left. No faults left over. Ignition's off now. And we start it up and I think I need to test drive it. Please, if there's no flashing light from the start up, we're on to a winner. There's no light. There's no light. There's no light. We've got traction control light, ESP sim system malfunction, visit dealer. It might just need driving. It might need driving, wouldn't it? If this has fixed it, this is the best. I'm allowed out, but as long as I don't touch the outside world. The rules are, I'm allowed out the unit as long as I'm test driving the car. Could it be the car only needed a £60 battery to fix the transmission fault? The brakes, we still have no brakes, so there is definitely an issue there. Will it go into manual? It will. Oh,
it's driving well smooth.
No way has it fixed it. No. It's so much better.
That's a million.
Second gear, we got a fault.
Oh, have we?
Yeah, we've got a fault, but it's an ABS fault. ABS malfunction. It seems to be working. We do have a fault which has come back about the ABS and the traction control, but we think the transmission fault is fixed. So I'm going to go into auto. I'm going to auto and pulling off. It works! No way! No way! It's so much better. We really could be onto a winner here. One transmission fault fixed already, and I've still got 23 hours left to fix the rest of the damage. It's looking more and more possible. So we've got transmission fault done, but we've got ABS fault, a broken door, and a broken rear quarter with 23 hours remaining. I think I've just bought myself at least
10 hours of gearbox fault solving. Now, it's up in the air for the GTR to see if we can see anything unusual underneath the car.
An oil leak here, looks like a lot of oil.
Oh yeah.
It seems we've got a small oil leak coming from around the gearbox. So we need to inspect that.
Look at that.
Look at that.
You can tell it's from Devon. Oh my god, look, there's bits of it missing.
The exhaust is definitely rust then. Do you know what, though? It looks like all OEM bolts underneath, which is a sign of like a really well looked after car. The rust is probably explained by it being in Devon and save the lifeboats. It's going to live near the sea, innit?
Earlier, we seen that on the number plate, the car's come from Dorset, which is on the coast in the UK. So it's been around some salty water. And to back this up, we can see that he supported the lifeboats. Maybe this was a lifeboat, the amount of rust that's underneath it. But I still think it should clean up well.
Look at this, we think we found some sort of clue to the brakes. Check out this, look, the caliper looks like it's being spaced. And look at them. That can't be original.
Why would you space the caliper?
The only reason you space the caliper is if you put a bigger disc on there. But that still doesn't explain why we don't have a brake pedal. But before we jump onto the brakes, I'm just slightly worried that we know how bad these gearboxes are, and it looks like there is oil down here. So we want to inspect where that's coming from first, which means we've got to remove this panel. Then we can move on to try and getting these brakes working. And I think if we can get the brakes working without like buying anything, this is a bloody good car.
To get to the oil leak, we've got to remove this huge under tray. Then I've got my fingers crossed that it's nothing drastic.
We found where the oil leak's coming from.
Could be coming out the switch.
Look. So this oil leak is actually coming from, I don't know what, a position, maybe a position switch, because look, here you can see the shifter arm, where it will select it into neutral, park, reverse, drive, whatever you like, but check this out. I removed that just 2 seconds ago, and all oil was all inside of here.
What, oil in the electric?
Yeah, it's coming down the switch.
Through the terminals, the switch.
Oh.
A new switch should solve that oil leak. So I'm gonna have to order one.
You got a new exhaust for this?
I don't know.
I bet this is the only car you're not putting an exhaust on, and it needs a new one.
My dad's right, this exhaust has seen better days. But that wasn't on my list of things I needed to fix.
Let's solve this brake issue. 22 hours, got so much time. Only need to change 2 panels as well. Wrong slide. How good is stood up? This wheel, I don't think has been cleaned ever. Look at all the brake dust on it.
And they've put the new weights
Over. What the hell? And look at that, the tyre is stretched on, so it's the wrong size tyre, and it's a radar. It just doesn't match any of the other tyres. Right, these brake discs, you reckon they're OEM? They're pretty new.
We need to measure them and compare them to the stock ones.
We do. And then we can see whether those spacers are on the caliper, because he's upgraded the brakes.
So far, nothing's given away why we've got spongy brakes. But we can see a spacer behind the caliper because potentially it's got upgraded discs on.
You can buy upgraded 390mm.
So he's going to measure the disc to see if it was the upgraded one.
390.
390, the upgraded.
So it was an upgraded disc, and that explains the spacers behind the caliper. But it doesn't explain why the brake pedal pushes to the floor.
Now, the reason why you get a spongy brake in a car, as we all know, is because there's going to be air in the hydraulic system. And the way to get the air out is to undo these bleed nipples on each corner, and hopefully that'll get the air out of the system. If there's no air in the system, then we have an issue with the brakes, which is not good.
Could it just be the case of bleeding the brakes, then we'll get a pedal? I guess if we're lucky.
I'm giving it a brake fluid change.
Which I think is a good idea. My dad's sucking out all the old brake fluid, and then we're going to replace it with some fresh fluid.
So I'm going to fill the reservoir up now with clean fluid.
Yeah.
Okay, because that's empty.
And then when my dad puts in the fresh Valvoline fluid, it should push the rest of the old fluid out of the system. And at the same time, we should get out any air that's in the system as well. My dad's going to each corner whilst I'm pumping the brakes in the car, and hopefully we can get a pedal.
Okay. Pedal light.
Pedal test. It's rock hard.
Really?
Yeah, it's rock hard. Look at this. Rock hard. We fixed this for £0. No, £60 at the minute. But why has it got an ABS fault on the dash? Even though I had a brake pedal, I still had a fault for the ABS and the traction control. ESP system malfunction. We've got this valve set code. Now the traction control works by slowing down a wheel it thinks is accelerating too fast compared to the others, stopping wheel spin. And the ABS works when it thinks one wheel is slowing down too much compared to the other wheels to stop skidding. But there's one type of sensor you need for both of these systems to work, and that's a wheel speed sensor. These sensors tell both the ABS and the traction control how fast each wheel is turning at one time. And if there's a fault with any one of these wheel speed sensors, then of course we're gonna get a fault for the ABS and traction control. So what I'm doing now is taking the GTR on another test drive with readings from each wheel speed sensor to make sure they're all reading the same speed as each other.
Yeah, left unlock. Now it all should read same speed.
And it looks like they are.
Yeah, there's no obvious signs, is there?
Is the ABS light?
Yeah, I've got ABS and ESP malfunction. So it's this valve set is the issue.
Now again, just like the gearbox, the ABS works with solenoids. If the ECU detects that one wheel is skidding, it will send a signal to one of the solenoids to stop sending brake power to that skidding wheel. Now it's possible that this valve set fault means something to do with the solenoids.
Only way we can do is get it back to the unit and investigate more. We've still got a door and a rear quarter to go, but we have fixed the brakes and we have fixed the gearbox.
Time was ticking. We got the car back in the unit and just tested everything. All the relays for the ABS, which all seemed okay, but then we think we found a solution. The C1193 code is to do with the ABS pump, and the ABS pump needs to be calibrated with a tool which we haven't got. This person's tried to use ECU Tech to try it, but it didn't work for him. In the end, the solution was 150 quid to run a calibration at the Nissan dealership, and then it worked. So why would it need a valve calibration?
I wonder if it's because the battery's been going flat.
Oh. And then it needs to recalibrate.
Yeah, then it needs to recalibrate.
That's it. That's it. We're going to have to go to Nissan. And it is now 5 to 7 on a Friday. Well, I'm still taking it as a win because we've got the brakes working, the transmission's working. We're 60 quid in and everything works, so apart from there's a lot on the dash. So again, the conclusion has come down to electrical stuff. Stupid. But now we can move on to the bodywork, which is a little more straightforward. Okay, doors coming off, guys. So my dad reckons they only use 12, 14s and 15s on Japanese cars. And he'd be correct because that is a 12mm. This door is made out of aluminium, and because of that it makes it pretty hard to repair. And also, second-hand doors weren't too expensive. So I'm just going to remove this door and replace it with a second-hand one. There's one bolt for the top hinge, one bolt for the bottom hinge, the check strap in the middle, then the wiring. Whoa!
I've got you, bro. I've got you.
That come off. Okay, door off. And once I've got the door off, we need to make sure we strip everything from it. The door card and the wing mirror. Chris is here. And he's dropped in to help. So what Chris is going to do is take this door card off, ain't you, Chris? Yeah, so Chris is going to do that whilst we take more damaged parts off. And the next one is the rear quarter. And there's not many 12mm you need to get that off. Go, Chris.
Going.
Chris started stripping apart the door card off the old door because we're going to need this to put on the second-hand door. Rear quarter, to replace it, takes a lot of work, which means
we've got to remove it. See all these? Spot weld, spot weld, spot weld, spot weld, spot weld, spot weld. And it doesn't just stop there, it's going to go all the way inside this window, all the way down this glass, which I may say, screensaver already come before we started the 24-hour challenge to remove the screen. So we had a little slight head start. They did it. Good job. Screen is out. This screen is also out as well. Can we do it in under 19 hours? Off and on with a new one. There's only one way to find out. Unlike the door, the rear quarter is steel, which makes it a little easier to repair, but we're gonna need a body shop to do that, and it was pretty cheap for a new rear quarter. So someone did say, when you remove this, order new clips, because they do break.
Have you ordered new clips?
No.
Oh. You just said I'm going in with confidence. Oh, no!
Oh,
That's what you said happened.
oh no!
Oh no.
The guy that told him about the clips.
He didn't
That's
tell
what
me about the whole
That's
thing.
what he did. He broke.
Oh, he
his,
did. He did, didn't he?
Yeah.
The lad who told me about the clips told me as well, when he pulled this off, he broke that trim. Mistakes were made. It's always gonna happen. And it actually turns out this trim is screwed on from underneath. The good news is that I think we could actually repair this to go back on. But of course, that's gonna take even more precious time away from us.
It's off. Do you know what that was? Stupid. 10 bolts for a door card, plus like clips. That's a lot.
Wow! This was an absolute bargain. eBay. £350, same colour, and it even come with the wiring, the door handle, and a window glass as well. But we are gonna have to switch some stuff. Someone's actually upgraded the speaker in this one to an Audison. And they've also chopped the OEM wiring off. You can see the two red connectors here. Chris is back at the door card putting in the OEM wiring plugs for the speaker. Then he's also got to switch over the wing mirror from the old door onto the new one.
What's next, Chris?
Mirror's going in. And then once the mirror's in, glass goes back in.
We're switching the glass over from the old one onto the new one because the second-hand one come with tinted glass, and also the glass is marked with a VIN number, so we're going to make sure that they all match up. Then finally, it's back on with the door card. Well done, Chris.
Let's go.
Has JDM the door out. Chris has cracked open a Red Bull, which means we are a quarter of the way through. Meanwhile, we've been taken off the side skirt. The screws on this side skirt were so rusty. The most rustiest screws in the world.
That's Nissan here.
You're a hater on the Nissan.
No, only Nissan screws.
Which means we have to be really careful when removing them. There's a full-on beach coming out of the side. There's literally a beach on the floor. I don't know what the previous owner did with this GTR, but it looks like he's had some fun in it, on a beach or maybe even off-roading. But eventually, we got it off. Look at all that.
This is all congestion.
Oh my God. With the side skirt off, we should be able to access everything now. 17 hours, 59 minutes left. Matt's now going, so we're down to me, my dad, and Chris to carry on.
Eliminate.
Anything which is attached to the rear quarter needs to be removed. All these buttons, switches, and door latches all need to come off. And once we've done that around the door shut, it's time for the boot lid to come off. Unbolting both hinges from each side, and then instead of disconnecting all the electrics in the boot, we're just going to lift it up and slide it through the rear screen. Now we can access all of the spot welds to drill off this rear quarter. Chris is going to start drilling out the spot welds, but the idea here is not to go all the way through. We just want to drill off the top layer, so then we've got something to weld onto, and that's why he's using this special drill bit. Whilst Chris was drilling out the spot welds at the front of the rear quarter, me and my dad were working on getting the rear bumper off the car so we could access all the spot welds behind the rear bumper.
and it looks like the rear lights actually come off with the rear bumper, which is what I'm unbolting now. And whatever I do on one side, I got to repeat it on the other side, as it gets later in the day and the time is still ticking down. Drilling out these spot welds is a long process.
Hour 17, 23 left. Liam joined in.
The more of us on this car, the more likely we are of getting it finished within that 24-hour timescale. Now, both me and Chris are working at drilling out those spot welds and then using the spot weld chisel to wedge in between the rear quarter and the inner structure.
Dad's clocking out. 17 hours remaining. Now my dad's gone. Let's get this car in the ramp so we can finally get this rear bumper off.
Back goes the GTR in the 2-post ramp. We've got to get this rear bumper off now. So it's off with both wheels, and Liam's going to peek round the arch lining to undo the bolts which connect the rear bumper to the rear quarter. And on the other side, I'm going to remove the full arch lining. This car looks like it's never been cleaned. There's so much dirt. But we'll have plenty of time after the 24 hours to clean it all up and maybe ice blast it all. And once me and Liam have unscrewed all of the bolts, we should be able to lift out the rear bumper complete with the rear lights as well, and the diffuser. Behind the bumper, the car's pretty clean and everything is fully original, even the exhaust, which I suppose is a good sign. And now Chris is working away at separating the outer quarter from the inner arch lining structure.
Right, it's getting to that time where if we don't close the shutter, we will attract 9,000 moths. And that is it. It is down. Whoa, and there's a moth already in it. That's a fat moth. It's like a bird. 16 hours.
With everything exposed at the back, we're back to drilling and then chiseling out these spot welds. We're going to make sure we don't damage any panels underneath the rear quarter because that's what we're going to be welding onto. But Chris seems to be enjoying this job.
So what we decided to do, instead of replacing this whole panel with all the light section and everything else in there, we're going to just replace the outer quarter panel, which means we've now got to drill all these bits off this piece and keep this piece on the car, which actually is not going to be, it's going to be alright to be fair, because then we know the light is in the right position, we know the boot's going to be in the right position, it's just the quarter panel we've got to line up. So I'm going to start drilling these off. Chris is already over there drilling them ones off. Hopefully we can pull this off.
I think this is the best solution. The only issue with doing this is that I risk damaging the new panel. So I've got to be as careful as possible here. But I think I've smashed it.
14 hours remaining. We're at a bit of a situationship over here. We're slowly peeling back this rear quarter. It looks an absolute mess. We're trying to, up here, the roof is on top of the rear quarter, like the actual roof panel is on top and the rear quarter slides underneath it. So we made a little cut hole here and I'm hoping that we can just like work it out and pull it out from underneath it because we don't want to damage the roof.
Wow. Oh!
Yes! Body shop. Quarter off.
Finally, we got the rear quarter panel off. What a job that was. But I'm afraid it's going to take even longer to put the new quarter panel back on.
Look at this. The good news is that all of the inner structure, there is no damage. There is, oh actually there is some inner structure damage here to like the wheel arch, which we could think we can just tap that out, do a bit of body shopping. Now all of this has got to be cleaned up. Everywhere where there's a weld I've got to clean up. We go all the way over it with a sander and then we can start sliding in the new one eventually. Jack did tell me as well that it is best to put the quarter panel on with the wheels on. That way the car isn't supported by the body and we're not going to cause any weird flexes as well. And we also should put the door on before we put the quarter panel on to make sure that the quarter panel lines up with the door and the boot as well.
It sounds like a right laugh.
Yeah, it does sound terrible, and there's 13 hours remaining. Yeah, Liam's disappeared to get a haircut at 1:15 in the morning. I think that was a terrible excuse from him. We've got to make sure that the inner structure is spot on before we start fitting the other quarter panel. So with a bit of heat and a hammer, we knocked out the wheel arch section pretty well, and then we're using the belt sander to clean up anywhere where the spot welds were. So we get a nice clean surface to weld onto. Okay, wheels are on, we're going to lower it down, roll it off, and then I can start the process of refitting a quarter panel. Yeah, we can't mess this up. Because if we mess it up, it's messed up for real. Right, plan. We're going to put new door on and the boot on. Then we've got a reference point to line up this rear quarter. Come on. But as me and Chris lifted up the door to fit it to the car, we found another problem. Oh no. Oh no. There is a bolt or a nut inside this door.
I was definitely sabotaged.
Precious time is being wasted. We had to take off the door card again and try and fish out this loose bolt which was in the door. That thing was causing the noise. And once we found it, we've got to put it all back together again. But that is just cars for you. With the bolt out, we can start lining up the door to the car. One bolt at the top, one bolt at the bottom, the wiring and the check strap. It's looking good. Look at this. That is pretty good.
Colour as well, colour looks
The
good.
colour ain't even that bad. I guess we'll see when we see it in daylight properly, but it really ain't that bad. As well, we've got to put the boot lid on. This is so when we put the rear quarter on, we've got two references to line it up. Boot is on, door is on, rear quarter. Oh, as we approach the halfway line.
That's good going if you ask me.
Yeah. Okay, so that kind of slotted underneath. We then test fitted the rear quarter to make sure everything all lined up. Look at that. There's a first test fit. I think it does have to go up a tiny bit, but that.
Not by much, is it?
No, it ain't. That is looking absolutely sensational for first fit. I can't believe how thin all the panels are and everything, how it moves. But yeah, look at that. This is looking good. OEM. Now I've got to really drill all the holes for my spot welds so I can mark them all out where I want them to go. Chris is clocking out. It was down to me now to finish this car on my own. I'm now marking out every single hole that I need to drill where a weld will need to go, whilst the time is still ticking. And there's plenty of holes that need drilling. Now you might be asking, why try and do this in 24 hours rather than take my time and do it how I'd normally do it? Well, I saw this as a kind of challenge for myself. What is actually possible in 24 hours? Also, hopefully you guys are enjoying watching this as well, and if you are, don't forget to hit the subscribe button because it does really help the channel out and it's completely free just to hit that subscribe button. I've got a lot more holes to drill. Drill time. This is definitely going to be a build to remember. Locked in the unit for a full 24 hours, rebuilding a Nissan GTR. Now that I've marked out all the holes I need to drill, I've got to remove the rear quarter again, clean up all the areas that I'm going to be welding onto, and then add weld through primer onto them. After that, I've got to apply panel bond to all the sections where it was bonded on, like around the fuel cap and on the wheel arch. And I'm kind of glad I'm not welding around that fuel filler. Okay, this is it. No room for error now. The quarter panel is going on. There's panel bond on there, so I've only got a small amount of time to actually get it on and sit it perfect. I'm very tired. There's still 10.5 hours left and I cannot make any mistake now. Let's do this, come on.
The weld through primer also goes on the rear quarter, and then I can line it up again. I have no idea what time of the morning it is at the minute, but as I'm doing all of this, it felt like time was moving even faster, and the sun began to rise before I even knew it. Once the quarter's in place, I can bolt all the hardware to it, like the door shut and all the other little gubbins, and now it was time to weld. I think we're almost ready to get the welder out, and we've got 10 hours remaining. I've made it through the night. Check it out. You don't know how tempted it is to get in the car and go home and get some nice sleep, but this is going to be so rewarding if I can get this quarter panel on, because if I can get this quarter panel on, then start building the bumper back on, this thing's going to look so good. Okay, this is it. There's no turning back now. I only learned to weld about a month ago. Here we are, 24-hour challenge, welding on a quarter panel into a Nissan GTR. Okay, let's do this. There's no turning back now. I've got to clamp the quarter as close as I can to the rest of the car and then weld it on. And it actually looks alright. This method of welding is not called spot welding, it's more plug welding. A spot welder costs thousands of pounds, but we've seen many body shops and many repair specialists use this same method and it be effective. After all, there are so many welds which hold this quarter panel on, and oh do I know about it. 9 hours left. On the back of the car, I welded the quarter in place and then made sure that the rear screen still fit in. I was just a little worried that I'd warp the panel or move it a little bit and weld it in the wrong spot. But overall, I think I was making some good progress. To get the last few welds in, I've got to remove the boot lid, which will allow me to get the belt sander in there and the welder. And after that, I've got to apply some etch primer. Now, all of these welds are primered and any exposed metal is primered now. It may not look the prettiest of things, but when the car goes to paint, I'm sure the body shop will touch up a few of my rough jobs. But now I've had a look on this side and the seam sealer is just a very, very small amount all around the edges, in between the panels and stuff. So I think we could just replicate that on this side by, yeah, just going down with a paintbrush really, because it's not as, well, it doesn't look as thick as how they put them on the German cars. Then Hannah turned up. Yay!
Oh my god, you've not got long left.
4 hours. I can't wait to go to sleep. Then my dad showed up. The morning had come and everyone had turned up with just enough time to do the seam sealing. Another one of my least favourite jobs. I've already masked the area that I need to seam sealer and now I'm going over it with a paintbrush. This is just going to seal a gap between two panels. Again, this is all rust prevention and we know how these Nissans like to rust. So in fact I've applied more seam sealer than they do from the factory. After that, I can start putting all the panels back on the car, like the fuel filler cap and the rear boot lid, along with the hinges as well. Now yes, I know this rear quarter isn't painted yet, but we're still fitting up all the trims and panels to the car. One, because I want to make sure that they still fit and all aligned before it does get painted. And two, I want to make the car look like it's finished by the end of the video. Now, I don't know whether I'm more looking forward to finishing the car or the 24 hours to be over. Back up goes the GTR in the ramp again, hopefully for the last time now. Me and my dad can lift on the rear bumper with the rear lights and then put all the under trays back on. Hey, one thing I was worried about and now I'm not so worried about is that the bumper actually lines up really well. Look at the door line up as well. New door, new quarter panel. It's better than a Rolls Royce. Back in goes all the carpets in the boot liner and my dad has actually repaired the trim that I broke earlier. It's just applied a bit of glue to the back of it and I'm sure with a bit of filler and paint we can make it look perfect again. But for now we're putting it all back in place to make sure everything lines up, and so far so good. This red steering wheel, in my opinion, is absolutely disgusting. So that has got to go the further down we get down this car. But that's not a priority. Right now, we need to see how good Chris's wiring skills are for the speaker
and door card fitting skills are to make sure everything works. So we're going to connect up the battery and check that everything works in this door, else it's all got to come back off again and put the original loom on. Okay. Lights working. Passed one test. Window. Goes all the way down past 2 tests. How's the alignment on the window? Pass test number 3. Does the mirror work? The mirror works. Yeah. Last test. Has he passed with flying colours? He's passed. He's passed the test. Everything works in the door. Well done, Chris. Right. Last and final thing. 1 hour and a half left. These wheels have got to go. They're complete with odd tyres on every wheel and they're completely battered. Here he is. It's George from Wheelmania and I still cannot leave. Oh, he's got donuts. Yeah. George here from Wheelmania, the final piece of the puzzle. Oh yeah, they look sick. We got Vossens on the Murcielago as well. Of course, if you need wheels, you need tyres, you need any refurbishments, Wheelmania are your guys. The link's in the description box for them, but most of you already know that. Hopefully, this will put the finishing touch, because these were absolutely terrible. I mentioned to the guys at Wheelmania that I was attempting this challenge on the GTR, and they wanted to be a part of it. And they've kitted us out with some 20-inch Vossens with some Michelin PS4s. And I think this is truly what the car deserves. Look at it. Wheelmania have finished it. 27 minutes remaining. We've still got time. I think we could have done more, but that's as much as I can physically and mentally take. I need to see what 24 hours of work now looks like. And also whether it was even worth it as well. But I think we've got a pretty good deal on this car. Let's get this out. With 22 minutes remaining, I can't do any more. I am out. You gotta get up every morning. That is it. One GTR, 24 hours. And I think we've achieved a lot. One rear quarter, one door. My mind is absolutely boggled. But was it all worth it? Let me show you. The Nissan GTR was £35,200. A similar year GTR and mileage are selling upwards of £53,000. Mine is categorised so it will naturally sell for less though. The door, £350. The battery, £60. And the rear quarter, £850. And the wheels, of course, were from Wheelmania, which are a sponsored part. I'm not going to argue with that. Which brings the total build cost to £36,460. Of course, the rear quarter needs paint, but overall, I think it makes this GTR a really good deal. I don't think it has been cleaned since the dawn of day. Like, there is layers of dirt coming off that. So instead of us going at it, we've got the ice blasters, and they're going to blast ice at this and probably do underneath the arch lining as well, because this is absolutely filthy. Look at this. Look at this. Why is this car like that? This GTR only has one previous owner, but it seems that owner never cleaned it. But after this, it will sure look brand new. The ice blasters are first masking up the car to stop all of the dust going on the paint, then they can get the dry ice ready. This dry ice cleaning is really clever. They're spraying high pressure dry ice onto the dirty parts of the car, which gives it a super deep clean without damaging anything.
It even takes off a lot of the underseal, which the guys are going to put a fresh layer back on afterwards. With it being dry ice that they're blasting on, it doesn't get any of the parts wet, and it doesn't cause a lot of mess. You just end up with a pile of dirt on the floor afterwards. That is insane how much stuff's come off that. But look at that, all under the wheel arches now and underneath the car is looking brand new, and even a fresh coat of underseal. 10 times better than this GTR was before. Now we can begin to paint it.
What do you reckon?
Right, new innit?
It is.
And the next step is now paint. We should be able to start prepping the car for the paint, which means we've got to start getting off all of the side skirts, the rear bumper, the petrol cap, and probably the boot lid as well. We've got to get it all off and exposed, then we can start prepping this rear quarter, and hopefully this is going to work. And we're doing it all at my house. Let's do it. Luckily for me, I realised that we was going to have to paint the car beforehand, so I left a lot of the stuff loose.
Yes.
First off was the side skirt, then the 2 nuts holding on this little door shut piece, then the 2 bolts holding on the door latch, and then I can start taking off the seal around the door.
Have you ever painted anything before?
Like a BMX frame. This is going to be a completely new challenge for me, so I'm really excited to see how it actually goes. Meanwhile, Kevin was enjoying himself.
What? Your dog's broken.
Yeah, he's broken. Yeah. We need to make sure that the quarter panel that we're painting is fully clear of all of the other parts, like this top A-pillar trim here. Yeah, we did break that in the last video. When I say we, I meant me. And because I was thinking ahead, I didn't properly put in the glass in the last video, so we can lift both the rear quarter glass out and the rear glass and put them aside. Then I can start removing the petrol cap. Let's get this bumper off, it's a big job. Here we go. The rear lights actually come off with the rear bumper, and again I've left this all loose so it's nice and easy for me to remove. Just loads of 8mm bolts holding it on inside the boot. Then of course the 2 electrical connections for both rear lights. Time to jack it up, get the wheel off. Then I can start by removing the rear arch lining so I can access the screw holding in the rear bumper. And look how clean it is under here. The ice blasters really did do a good job. Once I got the screw removed out the right hand side, I can move over on the left hand side and do the same thing. Then there's 1 10mm bolt holding in the bottom of the bumper, and I've got to do the same on the other side as well, whilst Kevin is still at that tree. Then finally I can start pulling the bumper away, but not without removing all of the bolts out of the rear diffuser.
Matt, we've hired a fellow driveway mechanic.
We have, yeah.
Welcome to rainy England.
Yeah. So is this the what's happening here? What's going on?
We thought we would have fun by being a driveway mechanic, but now it's raining.
Yeah, we're gonna paint it
Now?
in the garden.
Okay.
I've got a blow up paint booth,
Okay.
a big massive one.
Have you ever painted anything?
No.
Well,
How about that?
You know what they say about paint? It's
Really easy.
It's really easy.
Yeah, I thought
anyone
so.
can do it
I
in
thought so.
their garden. Yeah.
Well, we're on the next stage now, Matt.
At least if we've got a wet Sunday, it's already wet.
That's true. That's true. The last thing I need to remove is the boot. First off is the hydraulic strut, then the 3 bolts each side holding the hinges to the rest of the car. Now to fully disconnect the boot, I'd have to remove the trim on it and disconnect all the wiring inside of it. But it's quicker at this point just to slide it inside the car. Prep welded areas with P180 by hand. P180 by hand. Now the prepping can begin for the paint. My body shop have left me a few instructions on what to do, and I'm thinking if we abide by them, we should get a nice finish. That's if everything works out.
Next step, DA rest of panel with P180. DA 180.
Rest of panel. I've been told the key for painting is all in the prep work. We've got to make sure the surface is perfect before we lay any paint at all. So all of this sanding is vital. Then it started to rain. Next up, we've got to epoxy all the exposed metal, but it's raining. we decided to cover up the car so we could mask it all up in a dry place, or when it stopped raining.
Mission failed.
It's literally thrown in that.
This is too wet for driveway mechanics.
So this is it. It's time for the paint booth. If you remember, we've spent a total of £36,460 buying and rebuilding this GTR. And similar GTRs are around £55,000 upwards. So in order for me to stay under budget on this build, I thought it might be a good idea to paint it myself. I searched for a paint booth on eBay and loads of these blow up paint booths appeared. I actually managed to find a second-hand one for £300 on Facebook Marketplace. And if this all pays off, we could have saved a lot of money.
Has anyone ever painted a car on a beach before? Clean environment.
Yeah.
No dust or any like little particles in the air.
Which the beach is the perfect place to do that.
Perfect place.
We're going to attempt to set up the paint booth in the Menage, which yes, it's covered with sand, but that's why I've bought this tarpaulin to hopefully stop us bringing any sand inside the booth.
Here it is.
Our £300 blow up paint booth.
We got instructions.
Oh, that's good. Are they wet? Oh my!
Oh, it's on fabric.
Oh,
crazy.
I thought it was wet paper then.
Thank you for purchasing our booth. Step 1, find the blower connection tube.
This thing was pretty cool and well packaged.
Oh, it's raining. It's raining.
But we needed to get it up fast because the rain was coming in and we needed a dry place.
I reckon that's the blowing tube. Look, that's the blowing
That
tube.
looks like the blowing tube. Here we go.
Oh, it does.
Yes, perfect. Perfect.
It fits on.
Combination.
Oh no! Coming away.
The paint booth was huge.
Okay. Next up, we need power. We miscalculated!
Another extension cord was needed to get all the way down to the paint booth so we can plug in the blowers. And here is one of the blowers. Then we noticed something.
To avoid electric shock, please keep away from rain. If the rain could keep away from this, that would be a bit better.
The paint booth come with two blowers. One was used to sort of blow up the tent and the other one's used as an extraction. It blows clean air into the tent and then through filters which actually clean the air inside so you're not just breathing in pure paint. Now we've connected them both up, we should be able to inflate it.
Don't use it outdoors on rainy or windy day.
No, it doesn't say that, does it?
It does.
Why does it say that?
Step number 3.
Down here.
Yes.
Don't use it outdoors on rainy or windy days. We should have read that first.
We should have. It says, the booth is not waterproof.
You're joking.
So,
it's supposed to be thunderstorm. No, I'm not even joking. It's supposed to be lightning tomorrow. Tuesday the 16th. Lightning.
okay. So should we blow it up, see what it looks like, because we're here now. Then we might have to wait till there's a clear sky to put the GTR in. But every single day in England, it's windy and rainy.
Why do they sell these in England?
Yeah, no wonder he sold it on Facebook Marketplace.
The problem I have is that this booth needs to stay up overnight because on one of the steps after we primer it, we need to leave it to set. But we're here now.
3, 2, 1, lift up. It says zip up the zips.
And the paint booth is coming alive. It was actually working. But we made a mistake.
What's this one?
That's the oh no.
What?
That's the blow up hole. Because these are the pillars that hold it up. No way. Neil, we've done it wrong.
What?
Neil, we've done it wrong.
No wonder it's blowing up from the inside.
Because that's the extractor. Oh my. Come here. No.
It's going to take off. This is where you went to. Oh no! Now this is just going to be a giant bubble and it's going to explode. It's going to burst. It's going to
We'd put the blowers into the wrong holes. both of them were just pumping air into the inside of the paint booth and not into the actual structure of it. That's why the thing was about to take off. But once we adjusted it all, it seemed to work.
Look, because look, now it's got pillars.
Oh, look at that! Yeah! That's well better! With the paint booth up, all that's left to do is to peg it down into the ground so it wouldn't blow away, and was almost ready to go. MTV, welcome to my £300 paint booth.
Take your shoes off on the way in. Premium carpets.
Yeah!
Oh, it's quite vibey in here.
Wow. These are the filters. Filters all the bad air. And at the front, it's really raining outside as well. Yeah. Look at it, look at this. The rain was getting worse. I think we've sprung a leak. Look, it's leaking. It's coming in up there.
Oh no!
This is the decontamination area.
Oh no, Matt! Yeah, this is our clean room.
Oh, there's a big leak!
It's fully raining inside.
Oh my goodness.
We need a plan.
Don't do this here.
Freddie was right. We needed this tent to stay up for at least 48 hours. And to be clean and dry.
There's no way this tent is staying up for 48 hours in English weather.
There's literally puddles forming in the Menage. These have got to turn off, otherwise they're literally going to explode. That is going to just go bang.
The weight of the rain was just collapsing the tent.
You pulled it over! Oh, no. It's going down, man! Get over there! It's going down! It's gone. It's gone.
Why has it gone down?
It's gone down.
There was no saving this now. And we just had to admit defeat. Well, that did not work at all. Well, lesson learned. We did this, so you don't have to. Take your car to the body shop because it's what 300 quid gets you. And that's exactly where we went next. Back to the body shop. At the body shop. And really, we was back to square one of DA-ing the panel down with P180. Remember, the prep work is the key, so we've got to make sure it's right. After I've DA'd the panel, I can then do the corners by hand, making sure I get in everywhere, even inside the petrol filler area. Once that's all prepped, it's time to go into the actual paint booth. We're going to add up the total cost of all the equipment that we've used to paint this car at the end of the video. I've got a feeling it'll be a little bit more than our £300 paint booth. Then we're on to the next step, getting rid of all the dust off the panels. Okay, it's all in. We're going to take the door off because we've got to paint on the inside of this door shut as well. So let's get it off. We've had this door off plenty times before. There's one bolt holding the check strap in, a nut at the top of the door hinge, a nut at the bottom of the door hinge, and then just the wiring to disconnect. Then me and Matt can lift the door off the car and out of the paint booth. Cleaning is the next step. Wipe it down. Wipe it down. The next step is cleaning, and we're going to be using this panel wipe. Again, I'm going to say it, the prep is the key. So we've got to be 100% sure there's no line dust on this or anything that's going to sit underneath the paint. And then the next stage is to mask it all up. You can see I'm masking it from the back side of the panel. It's little things like this that I wouldn't have known how to do, but it's the body shop's experience that's really helped me out here. Once that's all masked off, we can continue doing the rest of the car with some brown paper and the dust sheets as well. And we're pretty much ready to start the paint. Look at this. All the gear. No idea. Proper, that is. I bought all this equipment in hopes that I'll be painting this car at my house, but it didn't quite work out. But at least I'm still getting to use it. Got all the paint guns, the bodysuit, a mask, and the belt which goes around your waist, and the airline clips to the belt. First step, putting a proxy primer on, which covers over bare metal, stops it from rusting. That's what this is, I think. Welcome to my boudoir.
Put that in there.
Okay.
Start with the edges and then work your way in.
Is there any technique to it? You just The belt's actually pretty cool. The airline clips into it and sends air pressure to the gun, whilst also sending air to the mask.
The only thing it's ever painted is a BMX frame.
But regardless of that, I was cracking on. I didn't really have any idea what I was doing, but it was nice to be at the body shop, so if I messed up, they could sort of put me in the right direction. But right now, I'm just trying to cover the whole car with some epoxy primer.
At this stage, just a nice, thin, full cover.
Right, okay.
Exactly what Chris said. A nice thin, full cover. That's what I'm trying to do. But maybe my technique's a little bit off.
See how he's doing little baby strokes?
Yeah.
For the base coat and the clear coat, it needs
To be longer.
Yeah.
Right.
But regardless of that, the epoxy primer is on, and I've got the coverage I need, but this is the first of one of many steps when painting the car. The next thing I need to do is clean out the gun, which of course the body shop have got a special machine for. This will make it much easier to use next time. After that, we can move on to the high build primer. Next up, high build primer. This is a thicker primer which should cover over any imperfections in the panel, any deeper scratches, or any questionable marks I might have put in there from the epoxy primer. And it will give a nice layer to paint onto.
wants to be a little bit heavier.
I was being quite gentle with this paint as the last thing I wanted to do was cause any runs in it. But this is where the experience matters. As Chris said, I should really be applying this paint a little bit heavier than I am. But it can't be perfect on my first try. And that is all primered and ready to go. What the hell is that?
It's like a powder, but it's something that you can sand off. Because if you try sanding this off as it is, you can't really see.
Oh, I see, yeah, okay.
You're just going by feel, whereas once this is on, your aim is to sand all of that off.
Right, okay, I get it.
And then you know it's flat.
That's quite clever, that.
On to the next step, prepping the panel which I've just primed. To prep it, we need to make sure it's nice and smooth. And at the minute, it's quite rough because I did a really light coat. So now I'm using P500 grit sandpaper, which is a finer grit sandpaper, to sand down this panel and give it a really smooth finish to the touch. And this black powder is really helping. I know that once it disappears, I've flatted down the panel. Also, whilst I was there, I stripped down the door, because as Chris mentioned, it's probably a good idea that we paint into the door as well. And to prep the door, we only need to roughen it up with a P500 grit sandpaper.
Yeah, so the idea behind a blend is so that you're not going edge to edge with the colour.
What?
You fade out your colour into the door and then you clear coat over the whole door, which will hide the difference between the two if there is any.
Blending into another panel takes a fair bit of skill and can look pretty obvious if you get it wrong. So I'm glad I've got the guys here at Allied Automotive to help me along doing that, as it's something I probably wouldn't have attempted if I was at home. Now the car's back in the paint booth and we've got to mask it back up again.
Here comes the door.
Ready for us to paint it this time. But this time the door's coming in as well. After that, I'm using this tack cloth, which is a kind of sticky cloth to clean off any dust or any other dirt which is sticking to the panel. And rubbing that cloth along the panel causes static, which is why Chris has brought out a stat gun. I've never seen one of these before, but by spraying it over the panel, it clears off any static that the panel has. Now we have a brand new second-hand top quarter panel, thanks to the guys at Litchfield, which you guys will see what we're doing with them maybe after this video on the GTR, if you are subscribed to the channel, of course. One of those guys gave me this. He said it's the same colour, but to make sure it's absolutely spot on the same colour, we're going to spray into it so it's the same colour as the quarter panel as well. After that, we're going to mix the paint. Chris puts in the paint code into the computer, then it'll give us a list of all the tinters we need to add into the pot and the weight we need to add to make the correct paint code. So we start off with this, and you can see the weight going down on the screen here. We go until it says 0, being careful not to put too much in. After that, the computer will tell us what number is next. For example, W214 is next and only 8.5 grams needed. And there was loads of different colours we needed to add to get the correct paint code. After that, we can mix it all up and apply it.
Let's do it.
This is it, my first layer of actual paint. This time I'm trying to do smooth, long brushes across the whole panel to get a nice even coverage. But I had a feeling that the paint colour wasn't quite right.
It looks green. Looks green. Oh yeah, it looks really big.
Does it look green? Looks green to me. Maybe the colour would change after we dried it. And because it's a water-based paint, we can actually blow dry it with this tool here. But I still wasn't convinced this was the right colour. And I was right.
Matt, there's a problem.
1411.
1411.
Where's that? Here? Yeah.
Yeah. That was the yellow you picked up.
A little bit of yellow. Yeah. Which one did I pick up?
I'm guessing 1141.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, I'm so dyslexic.
You put the wrong.
That's why
I thought it looked green. That's why it was green.
So-
Wait, which one's 1411? There. And I picked up 1141.
So what colour's this?
purple.
Purple.
Ah,
And that's
with
yellow.
the grey.
And that was yellow. That's why it looks
greeny.
green. What, we can still go?
Yeah.
So I mixed up the paint wrong. Easily done, and some would say a rookie error. And you'd be right, I am a rookie. But now, at least we've got the correct paint code and the correctly mixed paint. I've gone over with the correct paint this time, then gone off and blow dried this layer, and then for the final layer, Chris has gone in to not only put the last layer on the quarter, but to also blend in the door. Okay, so we've blended into the door, well Chris did, but at the minute, I still think it doesn't look the colour, but there's still the clear coat to go on, 2 layers of clear coat. But this is where we could really mess it up. So, and we don't want to be here till gone 12. So Chris is going to clear coat it now, and hopefully then it will all come together and be shining. But I still think it's looking a bit dark, but it could be my fault for mixing the wrong paint. Now it's time for the clear coat, the thing that makes the paint shiny, because right now it's looking pretty satin. Now normally you do this whole process over a couple of days at least, to make sure all the primer gas is out and any layers underneath that. But as the body shop are allowing me to borrow this paint booth in the evening, we only have a limited amount of time. So we've actually managed to do this all in one day, but we're never going to get the best finish that way. And for that reason, I'm letting Chris do the clear coating, because this is one of the most trickiest parts and one of the easiest parts to get wrong. We don't want any drips in the final stage. But after 2 layers of the clear coat, the job was just about done. I still think it's dark.
No, I think that's spot on.
I think it's just because it's so clean.
Yeah, it's ridiculously clean.
Yeah.
It looks well good though. Look at the shine on that.
Yeah, that's mental.
So,
I think we're not going to tell until we put it all back together. But we've got to wait for it to dry before we even touch this.
See it in the morning.
In the morning, the rear quarter glass went in, and so did the back glass, because it was good news. Oh, that looks sick! Yeah, look how shiny that is.
yeah.
Yeah, that looks sick. Thank you, me.
He literally had to save you.
That looks sick. Looks a bit green. Shut your mouth.
Straight from the Middle East, lit like a rocket. Give me a bit, I'm a rocket. Feeling like Rocky, fit in my pockets. Bipolar man, humble and cocky. They try to copy, give me the money. I need my greens like it's broccoli.
Boom. I have already put together part of the door. Just need to put together the rest of it, and then also now improve it. We've got some modifications. So thanks again to the body shop Allied Automotive for letting us borrow the paint booth. After we drastically failed on our £300 blow-up one, the paint is looking really good. And now I've got a little bit more knowledge of how to actually paint a car. Certainly not easy, but now I'm at the point where I know what I'm doing. Putting back together the GTR. And it's starting to look good. We've done so much work to this car already, and I still haven't really drove it. So I'm hoping I get to drive it properly at the end of this video. For now, I've got to put in all the door seals and all the trims back in. And I can finally put the interior trim back in as well, and the driver's side seat belt. Yeah, boy! Interior in, door on, trims on, seals in. It's time for the mods. It's time for the mods. I think that is looking... The petrol cap, we did actually forget to paint the petrol cap, so it's still at the body shop. Oh my God, look at this GTR. Cheap, decent,
Nissan GTR, all I've got to do is start these mods now, and we can actually start improving this thing, get it on the road for the first time since the crash. Take a look at my mods. So first off, we have this, a full carbon fibre Nismo style side skirt, which is going to replace the standard side skirt. So I think this should, I don't know how well it's going to fit because this is proper rigid, whereas like the side skirt on this is like really like flexible. So it's got to fit pretty much bang on, but it's got to be pretty much bang on for it to fit nice. So I think we may need to do a bit of persuasion to get it on, but we'll give it a go. First thing I'm going to do is install the new side skirts with some brand new clips. Then line it up to the car to see how well it fits without doing any modifications. And it wasn't too bad. But I'm going to do what Mansouri does and just add a little tiger seal to every one of the clips to make sure that this side skirt fully holds in place, especially with what I've got planned to do with it later. And there it is, all fitted. Looks way more aggressive now. Look at this, it's got like more of an aggressive lip to it now. Look at that, it's just flat. I think it needed it. And of course, I'm going to do exactly the same on the other side. But this time I've removed the door to make it that little bit easier to fit. Once both of them are fitted, I can then start reversing the GTR and the Ram, because we can't do the side skirts without doing the front splitter. For some reason, Nissan decided to use rivets to rivet on a front splitter to an under tray. There's a bolt there, but there's also a bottom of a rivet there. Is it going to be riveted and bolted? It seems that Nissan have designed the lower splitter and the under tray to be all one piece, which kind of actually makes sense. It gives it way more structure, and I'm hoping by undoing all these 10mm bolts, I should be able to separate it from the bumper. Yes. Oh, look, it's been drinking a mango. Oh my god, that is a burly front splitter, isn't it? Now I can line up the new carbon splitter to the front bumper. But it didn't seem as easy as that.
Yeah, that looks way better.
Okay. Seems like bumper's got to come off. Otherwise, because we can't get to these bolts under here. Can't get to them.
Because on the original splitter, it has holes with those grommets. You pull the grommets off.
Yeah, like a big, it has a...
You pull the grommets out and then you can get to them, can't you?
Yeah, we'd have to make a hole like straight through there if we wanted to do it. Getting it off.
Bumper off?
I think it's bumper off. Now luckily for me, the front bumper comes off on this GTR fairly easily. There's literally 2 bolts behind the wheel arch lining, and then the rest is all on clips. And hopefully now I'll be able to access the bolts to bolt the front splitter to the bumper. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You can see here where the bolts go through into the bumper, and we never would have been able to access this whilst it was on the car because the actual splitter blocks you from getting to them. On the stock splitter, holes were drilled underneath it, and then you can put your socket through the holes to access these bolts. But you won't want to be drilling any holes through this carbon fibre one. And now that I've got the bolts fitted and the splitter attached to the bumper, I can start lining it back up onto the car. I have to say, these Japanese cars are fairly easy to work on. I wouldn't say they're as well put together as the German ones, but they're definitely more DIY friendly. And I'm really enjoying it. Now to put back in all the bolts that I've taken out and fit this front bumper for good, making sure it is properly secure. Splitter's on, but we can't do the front, side, and not the back. Let's do the back. Next up, diffuser. Now we got this from Night Racer, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So shout out to Night Racer. We got the diffuser. We managed to get the front splitter and side skirts, but Night Racer got us the rear diffuser. So we're hoping this is actually gonna, the carbon looks better, but let's see how this is gonna go on the bottom of there. Now this turned out to be trickier than we first thought. The standard bumper and the diffuser is sort of in 3 pieces. You have the bumper, the diffuser, and then sort of the rear under tray which attaches to the diffuser. First thing I'm going to do is remove all the bolts and the clips holding the under tray to the diffuser, and the under tray is actually carbon fibre already. I've also got to transfer over this rear fog light as well, which fits quite nicely into the new diffuser. Then I can pull off this lower under tray with the old rear diffuser as one piece. You can see it's a huge panel. After that, I'm going to separate the lower under tray from the diffuser. Here it is, one big carbon piece. Now I can slide on the new rear diffuser, a big carbon fibre one, and it's looking really good. But there is an issue. This is the aftermarket diffuser, and then this is the stock under tray, but we think it sort of slides over it to go in, because otherwise you just lose all your under tray, which you need for aero. But the thing is, this doesn't really slide into the aftermarket diffuser. To commit to fitting this rear diffuser means we've got to chop this standard carbon diffuser, which is not cheap at all. If we chop it, it means that we can get it in then. I think I'm going to chop the edges off. Because all we need is those holes to line up to those holes.
But you don't even need them, do you?
No, we don't need them, but it would be nice to get to that point,
What?
and then we could bolt everything all through. I don't know if this is how you meant to fit it.
We just don't want to risk breaking this diffuser because we're so close to finishing the car.
Yeah, without that diffuser, it's not going to look right.
Not at all.
Right, okay, I'm going to commit to it. I think it's best at this point for me not to look at the price of this carbon fibre under tray, because I'm absolutely butchering it now in order to fit our new carbon fibre diffuser. I'm hoping by cutting off this section here, I should be able to slide it into the new carbon fibre rear diffuser. And luckily for me, it does seem to be working. I can slide it straight in, and then all the bolt holes line up. So now I've got the aftermarket rear diffuser on with the OEM rear under tray. Believe it or not, that seemed to have worked. We've still got an under tray, and we've still got a diffuser. We've left all the nuts a little bit loose in case we need to move anything once they're on the car. It's quite late at night, and all the flies and the moths are coming in.
Look, you can see the moon.
Look at the moon. We've got to fix this because this is my drive home. This is my ride home. I have to get this car on the road. Let's get this bumper on. This is a big finale now of how it's going to look. We still have a few more mods as well, but whether we'll make it in this video, we'll see. Let's see how well this fits. Now, whilst I was fitting the rear bumper and the new diffuser back onto the car, it got me thinking whether it was actually worth spending the time on painting that rear quarter ourselves. We did use a lot of equipment and spent a lot of time doing it, and I wanted to tally up all the parts that we used to do it. So let's go from the start. The 180 grit sandpaper, £15 for the box. The DA, the one we used at the body shop, was £400. The compressor for the airline, £600. Panel wipe, £20. All the masking tape and brown paper collectively, £80. The paint guns, £1,535. The spray suit, which also come with this belt, £80. The mask, £414. Epoxy primer, £120 for the kit. High build primer, £90 for the kit. The charcoal thing, £23. 500 grit sandpaper, £15. The tack cloths, £16. The anti-static gun, £1,995. The actual paint for the car, £120. This blowy thing on the end of the airline, £87. And the clear coat, £200 for the kit. And that's not to mention the paint booth that we used, the paint mixing machine, the paint gun cleaning machine, and so much more. But it still brings the total cost of £5,810. Now, of course, I'm going to be able to use a lot of these tools for another job. But what would it have cost if I just got this painted at the body shop? How much would it be to paint a quarter like that?
A job like that, probably about £1,000.
So I'll leave it up to you to decide whether that was worth it or not. For me, the experience of learning how to do it was worth a lot more. And now, I can show you the results.
Don't give me this, don't give me lip. That's what you get when you act a fool. Just one of these days.
This is the first time driving a GTR. It looks good. Let's go.
It's gonna get personal.
This is truly a dream. It's gonna get personal. The car looks amazing.
Oh, what a car.
And it's driving great as well. It's kind of what they're built for.
In the back garden with the GTR. How is it that we get to do this? This is crazy. Look at that.
Yeah!
Oh my god! It's so... What a car!
Why does it sound so good?
Does it sound good? Answer? Yeah, I can hear
Really
it go
good.
whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Weapon. Well, successful. We couldn't get the quarter mile under 12 seconds. Come on! I think that's all it's got. I think that's all it's got. So we're consistently doing around 12.2. There's no improving that.
I think we're going to need some more power.
Everything here from Litchfield should give us the ingredients to make a 10-second car, hopefully. So, we need more power. We need more noise. We need more air and we need more fuel. Litchfield have told us with these parts and to fit them, we've got to take the engine out.
Oh, you're having a
We didn't tell him.
But literally, we've known that for weeks. And we didn't tell you.
So the engine's got to come out to fit these parts. 3 days. We've got 3 days to have this engine out, modified, put back in and rolling. Yeah?
no problem.
So, we've got to get the engine out, which is something we've never done before on this GTR. Next step, exhaust. First step is to remove this old haggard exhaust so we can access the prop shaft underneath it and disconnect it from the gearbox to the engine. And to get to the exhaust, we need to remove the rear diffuser first. Wow. Down it comes.
Who did all this?
Now we can see the back box and I can access the bolts which hold them in.
Guess what I'm doing, Matthew?
What are you doing, Anthony?
Favourite job.
Cutting.
Cutting that other bolt off.
Some of the bolts were so rusty that they just needed cutting off, which gave us a perfect opportunity to prank our second cameraman, Toby, who doesn't have too much mechanical knowledge. Because we don't want this, we need the spots, we don't want it to go everywhere. So just see where they go. Where do they go? Just do a little one so he knows where they're going. Yeah, okay.
I'll do it the other way so that they'll come down here.
Yeah, you go this side.
This is so rogue, isn't it?
Wait,
ready?
What's about? Wait,
no,
what is about to happen?
Get it in the bucket.
Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Make sure this gets down in the bucket.
What are you trying? Why am I doing this?
What an
idiot! I think you did a really good job there, but not many escaped that bucket.
Okay, enough messing around. Let's get this exhaust off. I'm undoing the bolts which hold the hangers of the exhaust to the car, and then we can lower it down.
Yeah!
Once we've got the back half of the exhaust out the way, I can work my way at getting off the front side of the exhaust as well. Easy enough done. Now we can access the prop shaft. And there's two on this GTR. The gearbox sits at the back of the engine, so there's one prop shaft which sends the drive from the engine to the rear diff, and another prop for the front wheels, which sends power from the back of the gearbox to the front differential, I believe. Both of these have got to be disconnected to allow the engine to come down without the gearbox attached to it. There's 4 bolts holding in one, and then we can slide that out of the way. Then there's 4 bolts holding in the other one, and we can separate the other one from the middle as well, which is what I'm doing now.
And that's both of them out of the way. Then we spotted some coolant lines running to the back of the gearbox.
Oh, look, it's going to the gearbox. Is that going to be a problem with lowering it down?
Only if you leave it connected.
So there's another thing we need to disconnect. The coolant feed and the coolant return pipe to what seems to be a gearbox cooler. And once we've disconnected them, we can leave that coolant to drain out. And whilst we was underneath the car, we thought it was the best time to disconnect the steering column from the steering rack using this one single pinch bolt. And that is all done underneath. Next step, we're going to take the bumper off so we can access all the coolant hoses and oil at the front of the car. This front bumper and this front splitter is one huge piece which sort of works its way underneath the car. So we undo the bolts from underneath, then a couple bolts each side into the wing, a few clips on top, and then we can pull the bumper out of the way. Bumper is off. We can just see the charge cooler in there, and we will be replacing that. Now we've got to disconnect all the wiring, get all the fluids out, and drop the engine out. Let's go. It's time for the GTR's V6 engine to be removed. First things first, let's disconnect the battery. Something we probably should have done earlier. But whilst my dad's doing that, I'm disconnecting the induction pipes. Hey! The goal here is just to disconnect everything which is connected to the engine, which will be staying on the car. And these air boxes will be removed and definitely replaced to get some more power. But we'll get on to that. Now, it's time for the coolant hoses to come off. So the whole engine loom, all the wiring, runs around the top of the engine, through the bulkhead, down along, down the battery, and then the ECU for the engine is underneath here. So we've got to take off a lot of this dash to get to all of the engine wiring loom. We're disconnecting the wiring harness from the engine's computer because this is a way quicker way than disconnecting all the electrical plugs of everything electrical in the engine bay. But to get to the engine ECU, I've got to strip half of the passenger side interior apart because it's hidden just behind the glove box. Right, there is the engine ECU, just here in this casing. So all the plugs are here. So I think if we disconnect this, and then we should be able to pull it through into the engine bay. But there's a lot of disconnecting we've got to do. You can see here all the plugs which go into the engine ECU, and a few extras as well. And once I've disconnected all of them, I can slide the wiring around the back of it and push it through the bulkhead at the top here. And on the other side, my dad's going to be pulling it out. Now all I've got to do is make sure that all of that wiring is clear and can come out with the engine. So we're just pulling it off any clips that it might be attached to. Then we're going back underneath the car to disconnect some more stuff. There's an oil cooler! Turns out there's an oil cooler at the front of the car for the engine oil. So we've got to disconnect the feed pipe and the return pipe to that, which look pretty rusty. But with a bit of WD-40, we got the thing loose and we got both the pipes out of the way. And a lot of the oil drained as well. Okay, now all of this, including the brake and everything, is all going to come down with the engine. But this wishbone at the top is going to stay on. So that means we need to undo this def bolt and separate it from the one another. Luckily, this pinch bolt was nice and easy to remove. Yeah. Oh! Now the wheel hub, the suspension strut and the brake calipers can all come down with the engine. But anything electrical won't. Like this ABS sensor, we don't want to be breaking that. There's just a 10mm holding it in and then we can wiggle it out of the wheel hub. And once that's removed, the only thing holding it in now is the bolts on the bottom subframe, which is next up. I'm loosening off all 6 bolts which hold it in place and leaving them on the last little bit of the threads. That way, when we lower the engine down, we can rest the subframe on some axle stands, and once it's nice and secure, we can undo the top mount bolts of the suspension and then finally go back to those subframe bolts and take them completely out. And the whole engine and suspension should sit nicely onto those axle stands. Up it goes. Engine's out!
And that was job done for day 2. Right, our goal is to get more power. Best way to get more power on a turboed car is to increase the size of the turbos. And that's exactly what we're going to do. We have got not 1, but 2 uprated turbochargers. Look at them, bad boys. Most of you will know how this works, but let me try and explain it for people that don't. On an engine with a turbocharger, when the exhaust gas is released, it passes through the hot side of the turbo, spinning the propeller inside of it. And as the propeller is spinning on the inside of it, it's also spinning the cold side of the turbo, which is compressing cold air into the inlet side of the engine, naturally giving you more power, because the more air we have going into the engine, the more fuel we do too. So we get a bigger explosion, which in turn gives us more power. So naturally, if we increase the size of the turbo on the engine, we should be increasing the amount of air that gets pushed into it, giving us more power, which is what we want. Now that I've removed the heat shield, I can access the bolts which hold the manifold and the turbo to the side of the engine. But first I'm removing off the induction pipe which is attached to the cold side of the turbo, and now I'm going to start undoing the bolts on the manifold to the engine block. And my dad's doing the exact same on the other side. Anything that spins fast on an engine is going to get hot, and to cool this turbo down, it has coolant flowing through it. So of course it's going to have a coolant feed pipe and a coolant return one, which is what I'm unscrewing now. As well as coolant, it's going to need lubricating. So it also has an oil feed pipe and an oil return pipe. I've got to remove all of these pipes before I can pull the turbo away from the engine. Yeah! And once I had, me and my dad can both pull them away, leaving us with a bare engine.
If you look in there, look at that one.
Oh yeah, it's huge compared to the other one. Old versus new.
Build that up. I've got to build this one up. Transfer these pipes onto that.
All those coolant and oil pipes are now being transferred off the stock turbo onto the bigger turbo. I'm pretty sure these are just hybrid turbos, which use the same housing as the original turbos, but have bigger internals. So this should just fit in the standard position, and we shouldn't need to make any modifications to fit them. Now I'm lining up mine on the left hand side, being careful to put everything back where it was, but pay special attention to this oil feed pipe. It takes oil from the back of the engine using a banjo bolt. And it was pretty difficult to install. So much so I got my dad to tighten it up because I didn't think it felt right. And if it goes wrong, well, we can blame him. After that was tight, I can then start bolting up the manifold to the engine. And then start connecting up all the coolant lines to the turbo. And that is 2 turbos fitted to the GTR engine. Okay, we now have more air going into the engine because we have bigger turbos. But there's only so much fuel we can put in to mix with the air ratio. So now we have got bigger injectors. The job for these is to inject fuel into the engine. And these ones have got bigger at the end. So now we can put more fuel in to mix with the more air that's going in. Only issue, fitting these is a fairly big job. They're right down there. So, let's get fitting on. So now with the bigger turbos on the car, we're going to be introducing more air into the combustion chamber. So to get the fuel ratio right, we need to upgrade the injectors which inject the fuel into the engine as well, which is exactly what we're doing now. To get to the injectors, we've got to first take off the engine cover, then we can access the inlet manifold. On this engine, I believe the air-fuel mixture is mixed before it enters the combustion chamber. And it's like that on a lot of performance engines. I think they refer to this as port injection rather than direct injection. Now that we've got the inlet manifold off, we can start unbolting the fuel rail. And attached to the fuel rail are the injectors. And on each injector, there's an electrical connection. Because of course, they're electronically controlled. Fuel rail out by the ECU and told when to inject the fuel. Now the fuel rail's out, we've got direct access to the injectors, and we've just got to wedge these out of the port. There's 6 cylinders, so there's 6 fuel injectors to remove.
Look how much bigger that is. Oh my days. Wow. Apparently, all of these modifications that we're doing, just enough to do without building and reinforcing the whole of the engine, doing forge internals. So this is the maximum performance this engine can take before it goes pop.
What about the gearbox?
Gearbox, we don't know. Before the injectors go back in, we don't want to damage the seals, so we're putting a little bit of lubricant around them and then they just push into place. We need to be 100% sure that they do go into place though, because any leaky injector could cause a fire. We don't want fuel spurting around the engine bay. But with all 6 in and the inlet manifold back in place, successful job. More fuel added, more air added. Now, to get rid of that more fuel and more air, our standard exhaust is so restrictive. So we need to make sure that the engine can breathe now, like taking a potato out of your mouth when you're trying to run a marathon, innit? Because before it'd be like, potato in your mouth, take your potato out, you can breathe. And that's what we've got a solution for. Welcome the new exhaust. Here's the Litchfield upgraded exhaust. There's less restrictions in it, and it's also wider. It's going to help the engine breathe a lot better. And this is going to be way easier to install whilst we've got the engine out. We've got 2 downpipes, 1 on each side connected to the new turbos. And then we need to install the lambda sensors. 1 closer to the turbo, and 1 further down the pipe. These sensors tell the computer in the car how well the fuel is burning in the combustion chamber, so it's pretty vital when it comes to tuning. Another thing we want to change are these hoses. Because these hoses are all ribbed, they don't necessarily flow air the best. So we're going to be taking them off and replacing them for nice smooth silicone hoses instead, which is going to be way better for airflow. And what we do on the bottom on the engine, we're going to repeat on the top and on the other side as well. And that's a lot of the inlet hoses upgraded already. Woo! Hoses on, exhaust on, turbo on, injectors on, engine in. Because the engine stayed in the exact same place, we should just be able to lower the car down and it should slide in as easy as that. Once we've got it back into the engine bay, I've just got to go underneath and put the bolts in for the subframe. And once all 6 bolts are in for that, we then should be able to lift the car back up and then the engine is back in to its original spot. With all the upgrades, of course. Engine is in and we are on Thursday, Friday, Saturday today, day 3. To make this engine work better, faster, and to accompany our modifications that we've already done, we of course need an induction kit, bigger air intakes, and along with that induction kit, we also need to cool down that air because cooler air is more power because cooler air is denser, there's more of it going in the engine. So what we think is going to improve it, well what Litchfield know is going to improve it, this is an intercooler down here. And this is what the air passes through before it goes into the engine. So the cooler we can get that intercooler, and the more air it goes onto that intercooler, the cooler the air is going to be when it goes in. So of course we're going to make it bigger and better. But to do so, we've got to take it all off first, and then we're going to show you the new one. Let's go. What he said. To access the intercoolers, we've got to remove the crash bar and put the bolts in a safe place. There's a lot of ducting on the front of the car that we need to remove as well, but sure enough, here's both of the intercoolers that we're removing. Naturally, when you compress air, it gets hot. And as I mentioned, hot air isn't really the best for performance. So before it goes back into the inlet manifold, it passes through the intercooler, which cools all the air down. The problem with our intercoolers now is that they might be too small for all of our upgrades. So it's not going to harm us just to replace these 2 old ones for our brand new Litchfield one. We've just got to remove them first.
Hey, one out. Number 2.
Here is one side, another side. So this is cooling the turbo on the right hand side, this is cooling turbo on the left. Now, look what we're replacing it with. Whoa, look at that. And to even give you more enjoyment, got my initials on it. Because, do you know why that is? Because I'm super cool.
I see what he did there, because it cools the air, so it's like super cool.
Yeah,
MA is super cool.
They call me the Iceman. We think it mounts up here. We've got no instructions. We think this hole, or one of these holes here, mounts up here. So that means we need to cut this part of the plastic shroud out so we can fit it. So that is what that's for. We actually ended up having to take a lot of the plastic off to fit this huge intercooler in place. And it's pretty cool knowing that this intercooler was built in-house at Litchfield, especially for this car. And once we removed all that plastic, it fitted actually really nice. Whoa! Whoa! So now, we've got the intercooler in. We now need to connect the intercooler up with all of the air pipes. So the way this works is we have air is going to get sucked into the engine into this side here. Then it's going to get blown out the turbo down the bottom side, down through into the intercooler, and then eventually up, back, round here, through here, and into the engine. That's the route it's going to take. We just need to now build up a load of pipes and new induction kit to fit that all in. And that's exactly what we've got here. An induction kit from Litchfield. We've just got to figure out where all the pipes route, which all of us are having a go at now. Okay. This hose here, we usually link up with the blow-off valve thing, but I don't really understand blow-off valves that much, but we're blocking it off. So this now is going to go on. Look at that, that looks well funny. It looks like a Diglett, you know, the Pokemon. This hose then caps off the pipe to the blow-off valve. There we go, look, it's Diglett! Yeah! And then we install a new blow-off valve. I'm not too clued up on how these blow-off valves actually work, but I know they just release the excess pressured air, which isn't needed by the engine when you let off the throttle. And they make a cool noise. We've got new ones each side now. And last but not least, the new air filters, which sit next to the intercooler at the front of the car now, which should get some decent airflow. It's important these stay as cool as possible, and ideally as far away from the engine as possible as well, to avoid getting any heat soak. And now they're in their new position, I thought it'd be a good idea to make a few more cuts to the original bumper to let in some more airflow on the aftermarket air filters. And then we can begin to reinstall it all. By tonight, the car has to be done because tomorrow morning it's got to be at Litchfield on the dyno. And we haven't even started it up yet. We haven't even seen if our mods work. But we've got to get it done today. No, there's no question about it. Now me and my dad can put the crash bar back into place now the new intercooler and the induction kit is in place. Then goes in the foam padding. And finally, back on goes the bumper. And the cool thing, you can just see the intercooler peeking through the grille. So cut them out for no reason. It's doing nothing. And now we've made it airflow from a washer bottle. Never mind. The air filters actually sit here behind the grille. Now we have induction kit, intercooler, injectors, turbos. The car's got more power, it needs to breathe more. We've already put the downpipes on. We now need to install the rest of the exhaust, which is bigger and wider. Send it up. Here it is, the new Litchfield exhaust. It's pretty much a back box which runs all the way up to the downpipes. And you can see how much wider the diameters of the pipes are here, as my dad demonstrates. On go the gaskets for the downpipes. I can then slide the next part of the exhaust up to that, and then it uses a V-band clamp to connect the next part of the exhaust onto that. I can then push it onto the hangers. And finally, on goes the back box. And to hold the back box in place, the hangers slide back onto the studs. Then we've just got to tighten everything down. And I was actually really impressed on how this Litchfield exhaust fitted. It was the one exhaust that we haven't had to jig around and move to sit straight or to adjust it from hitting any panels or the underneath of the car. And it even used the stock exhaust tips as well. So from behind it looks completely OEM.
Once that's all in place, I can then put back on the rear diffuser, bolt that all up, then position the exhaust tips into place, and that is job done for the exhaust. We move the car down because now we can fill up the coolant, and then of course, because we've had the brake calipers off, we've got to top up the brake fluid and then go around and bleed all the brakes.
What are you doing, Tony?
Pumping the pedal, pumping it up.
We're just going to crack the nipples on each caliper to remove all the air in the braking system. And that's job done.
Right, coolant's in it, brake fluid's in it. Our next step is, because we're pushing the boundaries of this car, we want to make sure there's fresh oil in there. Not only in the engine, but also in the gearbox, because the gearbox is slightly ropey, and we know on these cars that they do tend not to be the best and the most reliable things. So what we're going to do first is drain all the oil out of the engine and probably drain all the oil out of the gearbox as well, and then we can start from scratch. Let's go.
First off comes the sump plug for the engine. Then we've got to unscrew the oil filter, which is a Nissan oil filter, which is good news. It shows the previous owner may have actually taken care of the car and took it to Nissan for its services. Either that, or it's never had a service ever before. Back in goes the sump plug with a new copper washer, and then back in goes a new Nissan oil filter. Then we can lower the car down to add oil.
Okay, oil's out. We need to put the best oil back in. So we've got Valvoline. Ugh. It is the Valvoline VR1 racing oil. Like my dad says, it doesn't need to be used for racing, but if you kind of over-spec it, then you know your engine is going to get the maximum protection, because this actually is proven protection in extreme conditions, used by racing drivers and all sorts, so it's perfect for our performance engine. The best thing, Valvoline not only do oil, they do loads of additives like coolant and everything like that. We're a Valvoline partner, and we won't partner with them if it was no good. Big up Aston Martin F1 team as well. Good news is that it's got a dipstick, so we can see how much Valvoline oil we're putting in, because this car is actually good and it's got a dipstick.
Oh, he's nailed it. I wouldn't choose any other oil but Valvoline to go in my cars now. But I think this VR1 oil is going to be perfect for the GTR. Be sure next time you do an oil change on your car, make sure you use Valvoline oil to fill it up. Do us all a favour. Do your engine a favour as well. It's going to protect it. And you're supporting the best team in the world, Valvoline.
Did you tell your dad to wear the full kit to work today?
Yeah, he's got full team Valvoline, isn't it?
Show us your badge.
Oh.
Team Valvoline.
Look at that. I'll be on every Instagram page in the world now.
Okay, next thing that's going to need oil and fluids is the gearbox. And the gearbox on this car is all the way at the back for balance. We want 50-50 weight distribution. This is a finicky gearbox. It's quite old-fashioned and it's quite clunky. The reason why we think it probably had and went to Copart was because of this gearbox. It had a transmission fault. And I will tell you, that transmission fault has been coming back every so often when I've been absolutely giving it some. The next time you start it, it has a problem with the gearbox. So I think a first thing to eliminate anything with issues with the gearbox is just to service it, because they work on solenoids and the solenoids move up and down in the pistons. And if they get a tiny little bit of grit in that solenoid, the solenoid will get stuck, stopping you from selecting any gear that you want to go in. We're going to drop all the oil out and change all the filters, and hopefully this will work, because the time is counting down for us being on the dyno tomorrow, so we're not taking any chances here. Come on.
First step is to remove the sump pump, but no oil will come out yet.
No! Ready? Ready. Go. Look at that. That's the straw. So the oil inside the gearbox should go to there, and you know when it's full, because then it starts dripping out.
We're going to measure the oil that comes out just to make sure that we've drained it all.
To get to the filters in this, we're not just going to do an oil change, we're going to change the filters, because you know what I mean. Take off this sump.
There's loads of bolts holding the sump on the gearbox. My dad's undoing every single one. Then I can lower it down And we can access the first gearbox filter right at the bottom. Our first filter is this big boy. Once that filter's out the way, we can access another one. I'm not too sure what each one are for, but I can tell this one has probably never been changed. It is filthy. And here's the new one from Nissan. And the funny thing is, these are pretty much the only things you can buy for the gearbox from Nissan. You can't even buy a clutch from there. If you need anything else for your gearbox, new gasket, any internal sensors, all those solenoids I was talking about, then you have to buy a new gearbox. But there are companies which have made solutions for that and have made aftermarket parts. But again, they're not cheap. Right, now, to fill it up, use a fill plug at the back. Really, I should have cracked this fill plug off first, because if this snapped, then I wouldn't have been able to refill it with oil. There we go. So the technique is to fill oil through that until it starts coming out of here, and it's meant to be one drip every second. So one. To get the oil in the back of the gearbox, my dad's using this pump to suck it out of the oil barrel and then push it into the back of the gearbox until the oil comes out of the fill plug. Hey, there it is, it's coming out, guys. Okay, that is going straight in, cross-threaded. Right. Hey, hopefully that fixes our gearbox issue and gives us all the power we need. But we're not done yet. To the top of the car. Right, is it behind here, Matthew?
It is.
Just pull it up.
No, there's a little lever.
Underneath there. There you go.
Is that it?
That's it.
Wow. This is the final piece of the puzzle. And hopefully all together it will give us that 10-second quarter mile that we've been hoping for. What I'm trying to access here are the fuel pumps. Now that we've got bigger injectors on, we're going to need some more powerful fuel pumps to push the fuel through those injectors. And the two fuel pumps sit inside the fuel tank. In fact, they sit inside this little mechanism that I'm removing now. Right, so this, I figured out, this is to tell you whether you've got full tank or no full tank. And inside this should be two fuel pumps, we hope. We only know this from watching videos online, because as I mentioned at the start of the video, we've never done this type of work on a GTR ever before. So we're learning as we go along. We've got to split this casing open, and now we can see both the filters and the fuel pumps inside. Yeah, there we go. One old fuel pump. And we're going to be taking out the old one and replacing them with uprated fuel pumps, which allow us to run E85 if we wanted to, providing the car's tuned to do so. The filters fit exactly back in the stock places. Now we've just got to put it all back together. Right, that is in. We've learnt so much today. Fuel pumps, gearboxes. That looks like a boat, look. In it goes. And now it's just a case of pushing it back into the fuel tank and bolting everything back up. And after that, we could put the rear seat back in and it could be finally time to start it. Let's start this thing. 10:25. Tomorrow, we're on the dyno at 9 o'clock in the morning. Less than 12 hours away. We've just done all of those modifications. The chances of this starting without any problems is very, very, very slim. We know that the ECU will not handle this car at the minute because it doesn't know that it's done all the mods. It's going to start up and it's going to be like, what the hell is going on? That's why we need to get the car tuned. But at the minute, we just want to make sure that everything is oil, air, and coolant tight. And I want to hear what it sounds like. I'm starting it. Right, wait. The oil's in there. The correct amount of oil. I didn't check the dipstick. Coolant, gearbox oil. And my back wheels are off the floor. Okay, just in case. Come on! Hey, it's running alright!
Turn it off.
Oh, why?
Look what's underneath the car.
No, it's coming from there.
Well, what is it?
Oh, no.
You're joking!
Oh.
Oil.
It's oil.
It's oil.
Engine oil.
That's oil.
Engine oil.
Oh, it is engine oil.
Valvoline oil. No. It's protecting the floor. What's that then?
A big one.
That's a turbo pipe, innit? So there's oil coming out.
Yeah.
What did I say? I said the chance of it starting without something going wrong. But it's at the back of the engine, which is not good.
Loads of oil. Not just a bit. Look at that.
Oh my god!
Just a small leak.
This is not good. Especially as we have to be on the dyno tomorrow morning. Oh my!
Oh.
Oh no!
Where's it coming from?
At the very, very...
It's everywhere.
I think I can see where it's coming from. It looks like it's coming from that turbo oil feed pipe that I fitted earlier when the engine was out.
Do you think that done it up?
Yeah, it did go up.
Yeah? Enough to stop it leaking?
We'll see in a minute.
I don't think, like, you know the way that is pouring out, that's like, it's not even on. Just to make sure it was that pipe, I was going to get back in the car and start it whilst the guys were underneath looking for the leak.
Got your safety goggles on.
Safety goggles in case they get splattered with oil.
Yeah, moment of truth.
And just as we thought, it was coming from that pipe. But maybe it was just loose, so my dad's trying to get in there now with a spanner just to try and tighten it up an extra few turns. That's tight enough for it not to spurt out like that though.
I don't know.
Okay.
That's got one side.
If this bolt is threaded into the engine, we've only got to take it out again.
We've got, what, 11 hours?
Have you just cranked it tight?
Yeah.
You ready, guys?
Yeah.
How ready are you?
You ready?
Come on! No!
It might be the copper washer, you know.
This was not good. Tightening it didn't work and oil was still coming from it. Now one thing we forgot to do is change the copper washers on the turbo oil feed pipes. So my dad's thinking maybe there's a fault with the copper washer that's on it. So he's trying to get it off now to see if we could put a new one on.
It's not good news because the copper washers look alright, don't they?
So if that was damaged, you think oil could be coming through there?
Yeah, that sits like that. And then the union grips in the middle, but I'd say that was the right washer. Putting in new copper washers. The other ones were new, but these are new ones.
So now my dad is trying to slide in the new copper washer and then Liam offered a helping hand as well.
Come on, Liam, come on. Come on.
So close, go on.
Liam, come on.
Push it,
Come
push
on,
it
Liam.
down. Liam, you're practically on it. Liam, push it.
Tony's took it off me.
He's robbed it from you.
We're fingering each other. Come on. Come on.
Come on, get it on. Get it on. What's going on? Yeah, go on. What's going on?
Auntie, Matt Jones from Ground News. What is occurring?
We're just gonna have a look to see whether there's any thread left in the item that's causing an issue.
Great news, Anthony. Let's find out.
Before they spend any longer trying to get that copper washer in place, my dad and Liam are going to slide up a little camera just to make sure it wasn't the thread that was causing the issue.
Oh! Is it cracked?
Oh, it looks... Oh, is it cracked?
It looks cracked.
No.
Yeah, it is.
It's cracked. Oh, I can see it from here now. Look at that. It's cracked.
Oh,
It's cracked.
what do you mean?
Oh, I can see that now.
that's
Looking at that, it's cracked.
Joking.
No.
Oh.
That's not good news, Matt.
It's cracked. The engine block is cracked.
It's cracked.
The thread's cracked, isn't it?
Yeah, the thread's cracked, yeah.
Yeah, the actual thread's cracked. Looks like you're ringing Litchfield.
Looks like the engine's coming out. How are we going to fix that?
I don't know what that is. Is that part of the head?
It might be a replaceable part, but Until you get that engine out, you ain't gonna know.
Oh, that's really bad.
Thread very bad.
Most of day 5 was just spent undoing all of the work that we've just done. We've now got to get the engine back out so we can access that housing with the cracked thread in it and work out how we're going to repair it. Right, let's have a look at our culprit.
Oh yeah, me and Liam never actually got
Oh,
it back in.
that's not even part of the engine. That's a separate bit. Look, it bolts on up there. Just here. I reckon if we take this off, we can probably get a better look at it. It looks like that part might actually be a separate piece. And if we can unbolt it from the engine, we've got a chance of either buying a new one or getting it fixed. We're slowly getting to our nemesis, 10 mil. Now we can clearly see the crack in the housing. I don't know how this has happened. Right, at the back of the engine, this is the part we broke, which we actually thought was part of the engine, but turns out, look, there's 2 10 mils on top. We might be able to take this off, buy a new bit, or because we're on this time frame, actually fix it, and we know just the guy who might be able to fix this.
Into the block. I wonder if we could have got to them in the car.
Oh.
Oh, separate. Oh yeah, there we are. There's going to be a gasket in there, isn't there? Oh, look, we could have just bought this bit
And done it without taking the engine out.
Oh my God. I know just the place to take this to. Let's go there. We're at the machine shop, hopefully. The guys here. If they can repair the Gallardo, I'm sure they can repair this tiny little crack in here. Bob's gonna absolutely go at it. This is do or die because this engine's got to go back in tomorrow because we're on the dyno the following day and we're back at Santa Pod the following day. So this has got to be revived. Let's go do it. We've already delayed our dyno day, so now it's down to Bob at the machine shop to hopefully recover this part. First off, he puts it in the sandblaster, then he's going to angle grind the majority of the damage off. It's going to look worse before it gets better.
I think it's best that you don't look at it right now.
Has it got worse?
It's definitely got worse.
Now it's time for Bob to weld it up. This is an aluminium part, so it requires TIG welding, which should be light work for Bob. They did some pretty drastic repairs on my Gallardo, but this weld's got to be perfect. There's going to be a lot of heat going through this.
So all the welding is done.
Yeah.
Massive success. I put a lot of extra material around the outside so it doesn't split open again.
Yeah.
It's clearly a weak point.
Now it's welded up, we've got to machine the top flat. This place could well and truly have saved the day. Anyone could pop in here and pay to use any of the equipment. Or if you're struggling, ask Bob to. Because now he's drilling out a new hole. He's then going to tap a thread into the aluminium and then use a steel helicoil to slide into it. So now it's got steel threads, which are a lot tougher than the aluminium ones. It looks good. There we go. Do you know what I've got to do now? Make sure I cross thread the hell out of it when I put it back in. Look at that, that's... Oh, that goes in nicely now. But thanks again to Bob at the machine shop because this has been saved. What time is it?
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock at night again. And we're doing stuff like this. Massive thanks to Bob at the machine shop. Link is in the description box. Learn how to weld, come here, borrow the tools, do what we did and get last minute fixes.
Pay to play workshop.
That's it. It is a pay to play workshop. Let's get this engine back in. Let's go. The pressure's on now to get this engine back in, see if all our modifications have worked, and get this car on the dyno. If I want to get this 10-second quarter mile, this fitting has got to work. And we won't really know until we get the engine back in, all bolted up and then started again.
Have you got your fingers crossed?
No, I don't need to have them crossed.
You think it's worked?
Yeah.
It's gonna work. Ready? Yeah. Hannah's starting it. If it doesn't work, I don't know what we're gonna do. Moment of truth. Yeah. It's too early to celebrate yet, but so far so good. Let's check underneath. Yes! Hannah! Give it a little rev! And again.
Those blow valves sound sick.
That sounds wicked! It was looking good. The oil was holding out. But I wanted to hear the new exhaust now. Yeah,
I like that.
That sounds really good. That sounds really good. Come on! We made it to Lichfield. The GTR made it to Lichfield, and we're clearly in the right place because there is literally GTRs absolutely everywhere. Although, that might be a bad sign. So we've got loads of things to do. They're going to do health check, wheel alignment, and most importantly, the tune, which is what we need to get this car doing the 10-second quarter mile. How fast we're going to get it after the turbo upgrades and the injector stuff, I don't know, but we're about to find out. Let's get it in the workshop. Finally, we made it. But we're not across the line just yet. Firstly, my GTR is going to go in, and the guys at Lichfield are going to give it a health check. They need to make sure everything that we've done to the car is safe before it goes on the dyno. So far, we're looking good. But we also need to solve why we have that ABS and traction control light on the dash, which I thought was due to a calibration issue. But when the guys tried to calibrate the ABS pump here, said it wasn't working. There was a problem with the pump. ABS pump has gone on this car, apparently it's quite a common problem. That's why we've got the traction control light and the ABS pump light on. We thought it might need calibrating. Doesn't need calibrating. We need a whole new ABS pump. It's common. £2,300?
£328 plus the VAT.
Plus that. We need it though. There's nothing we can do. Yeah, it looks like we're fitting that, but with this we'll have traction control, we'll have launch control, we'll have ABS, which is pretty important.
You can refurb the original ones, but for quickness today.
Yeah. We're on quarter mile tomorrow, so that one's going on.
So it's got like a Japanese symbol on it. What do you think that means?
It means rip off. £2,300 down, but we need it. The ABS pump is located here, so it's quite accessible. And the guys say they change a lot, and it's a fairly quick job. They've got to loosen off all the brake lines which go to the ABS pump, and then they can remove it. There's nothing special about our new one, other than the fact that it's going to work. We've just got to reinstall it back into place, and after that the guys will use their Mr. Push, which is going to push brake pressure through the braking system so they can go to each corner of the car and crack off the bleed nipples to bleed the brakes.
Just bleed the system manually, and now we're going to plug the computer in and do the ABS calibration for the pump.
Perfect.
And hopefully after this calibration, we should have no warning lights. Fixed, no lights, brand new again. Brand new. Right, ABS pump in. Everything coded, calibrated. Next step, because we've had all the engine out and you and my dad did the suspension, we're over onto the four-wheel alignment, get this thing four-wheel aligned, then we're all pointing in a straight line before we can finally get on the dyno. Come on. Health check passed. Now it's important that all four wheels are pointing in a straight line. The guys at Lichfield have got a laser alignment. So they attach this thing to each of the wheels and then it uses a laser to measure the wheel alignment. It's not actually that far out. It just seems to be the back left which is a slightly out of tolerance, which is bound to happen when we've lowered a car and had the subframe off and on multiple times. But with a little adjustment, we're back into tolerance. Which means we should be good for the dyno. We're good? Yeah. This is it. This is the time. This is gonna make or break it. 530 horsepower standard. Yeah, hopefully all the oil stays in the car. This is the moment we've been waiting for. How much power have the modifications added to the GTR?
These parts on the wall, I think these are going to be increased.
It's a graveyard of bits, yeah. That's come off on the dyno. Litchfield have a bunch of spares. Remember when I said you can't buy any internal parts for a gearbox? Well, that's why Litchfield have a load here to strip. Let's hope we don't need any. Time for our first power run. Whoa! Did you see that? We got good flames.
Did you?
Yeah, good flames. 637 brake. So 107 brake horsepower increase.
And flames.
And flames.
I reckon that's low boost. From what I've heard, they can do way more.
You reckon? Well, let's see. 637 definitely won't be enough. So they went again. This time 745. What did he just do? Oh my days! 745! And they went again. And the results are in. 784 horsepower with 627 foot-pounds of torque. 784! Oh my!
That car's rapid.
That's a joke. That is a joke. Will this be enough to do a 10-second quarter mile? Thanks so much, Litchfield, for hosting us and fixing all our problems. Thank you very much.
No problems at all.
I'm hoping we don't have to come back for the wrong reasons, because we might have gone bang, but to Santapod. Santapod Raceway, the home of UK drag racing. This quarter mile track has hosted some insane cars, and now it's about to host my GTR. Here we are back at Santapod, the place we started. To get redemption, we need to get under 11 seconds on this quarter mile. But there is a slight issue with the transmission, and it's to do with the clutches. There's two clutches inside this Nissan GTR, clutch A and clutch B. Clutch A does all the odd number gears, 1, 3 and 5, and clutch B does even number gears, 2, 4 and 6. And apparently the pressure on clutch 2, 4 and 6, clutch B, is losing pressure, and it's not doing so great. That's why we trailered the car here and we haven't drove it since having the car tuned. So I don't even know how this car feels or what it's like. So we are going to take it up the strip just now to see what it's like, but we need to use the launch control sparingly because it definitely needs a new clutch. Which would explain the transmission fault light every time I turn the car back on after a hard drive. And with the new power, I don't think it's going to help it. We were just gonna have a little. We're just gonna have a little go. We're not gonna launch. We're not gonna launch.
Okay.
Really? Something wasn't right. You can hear the clutch slipping here. Oh no! Oh no!
What?
It's not good.
What's happened?
The gearbox is slipping like mad. That was clutch slipping all the way up. Oh no. I think we are really going to struggle. It was slipping then, that wasn't even full throttle. This might not end well. I think we were slipping straight away. Now let's see if the GTR is going to hold up.
Do we do the sensible thing and put it back on the trailer and go fix it? Or do we go for a run and see what we can?
I think we just got to go for it. I think we just go for it. The transmission could leave the chat on the start line. The trans could stay on the start line and we could carry on. But as soon as I pulled off, it was like flashing four-wheel drive fault, everything.
It still felt pretty like...
Yeah, and then when I was putting my foot down, the revs were going, yeah, and we weren't going anywhere. Do we just go for it first time and see what we can get? We can change the maps. Litchfield have told us we can change the maps. We can go low boost, different power. We either we either can bring it down, low boost, and do it, or we just go full send, highest boost, launch control, and if it goes, it goes.
Full send. I'm glad we can all agree. Let's do it.
First gear and third gear were fine. Second gear was just slipping like mad.
You can short shift.
Yeah, can't you short shift it into third?
But I thought it was going full send.
Okay, yeah, full send. Yeah.
So we're going to make a decision to go full send.
Why not?
So this is it. The past 7 days have led up to this moment. Anything under 11 seconds is a win.
Come on, GTR.
That's if it works.
Come on.
I'm so scared. I'm so scared.
The launch was good.
Come on.
And so far, so good.
That was fast.
He did it!
What did we do it in? What did we do it in?
That was so quick. You won't know.
You won't know because the boards come up after it's gone past.
Oh my god.
I can't believe it.
Come on, GTR. What was the time? What was the time? We need to find out.
What time do you think?
Well, the good news is that the clutch was fine.
It got off.
It was fine, and I was just holding on, and this car's rapid. It felt.
Do you think a 10?
No.
10.59.
Yes! First try!
You can see the tape coming off it.
Like a drug that I just can't deny. Giving